Welcome back, everybody. I've had a little bit of a break. I've just got back off holiday, so that's. I apologise for the delay in videos, but I didn't do much in regards to the tuning at the airfield in terms of video as such, because I was short on time. I was going to work. It was a Monday, so what I'm going to do is go over what happened that day. And then I'll show you a couple of bits on Carl's car. I've got that, it's nearly finished. And yeah, it's not going to be a long video today. So what happened? We were at the airfield, getting on really well. My dad was driving, I was driving, doing the laptop, swapping around a little bit, and I was just about to do. It was getting on like late afternoon, 3 o'clock-ish. Just about to do another pull. I got the fuel tables and the ignition tables about where I wanted them. Car felt good. Took it to around 1.6 bar of boost. I didn't want to go anymore because I was still on the mineral oil. But anyway, just about to do a pull, and my dad goes, "What's that noise?" And I'm like, "Nah, it's nothing. What are you on about?" I had the deck cans on, so I couldn't hear I couldn't really hear anything. So he went, no, there's a noise. So I stopped. I was just going up the revs, going through the gears. And then I took the cans off and I was like, oh yeah, there is a noise. And it was like, like a tapping noise. I was like, I wonder what that is, because the car's still driving. The box sounded a little bit more whiny, but it was still driving. And anyway, stopped, tested it a couple more times, and then we were like, no, we'll put it on the trailer, take it home. So then, from there, I've gone to work, come back, and then I've gone on holiday. I stripped the car down just before I went off holiday, stripped most of it, and then I've got back now, took the box out of the car, and that's what's behind me. So what we did basically was took a tooth out of fourth gear. So I'll go in a bit closer, I'll show you, I'll try and explain the best I can, and then I'm going to explain what we're doing moving forward for the time being, because we've only got 3 weeks left till time attack. So I thought, plenty of time, let's, but now we've got to build the box, source the parts, build the box, finish mapping, because I'm not finished mapping yet, and then be ready for Cadwell on May the 1st. So yeah, it'll be fun. I'll bring you a bit closer anyway, and then we'll go through this. So here we are, a 6-speed, well, the insides of a 6-speed gearbox. So this is the bit that bolts to the engine. This is the front differential. It's a helical type diff. This plate bolts the other way around into there, bolts onto there, and then this middle casing bolts onto the back of there. So we've got an input shaft and an output shaft. So the input shaft, normally, this is what fails. So we've got on here 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 gears. This is normally what 6, 5, 4. Yeah, sorry. This is normally what strips when a fourth gear fails. So what I wanted to do is go over why I think we've had the failure. This is the failure we've had. So a tooth. We've had, can we see with the focus? We've had a tooth come out of fourth gear. So this gear is pressed onto the output shaft, and then the differential goes onto the back of the output shaft here. And it has another shaft going through the centre, which is on the back here, which goes to the front diff, obviously, to send the drive to the front and the rear. So we have like a little Woodruff key. Spin this round here. The Woodruff key goes in there, and then this presses on. I've just pressed it off with a press, and then 5th and 6th gear go on top of it, and then a nice big bearing on top of that, the casing bearing and the lock nut on top of that. So what has happened is these two gears, I think anyway, these two gears go like this, meshed together. So if you imagine that's back in there, that's meshed, not like that. Where was that? Third and fourth, yeah. Third gear being the bigger one, fourth gear this one. So they're meshed together in the gearbox like this. Now, inside this, in the center of this gear, is a needle bearing, and I'll show you. It's the same needle bearing as what's on all of the gears, different sizes obviously, but we have a needle bearing like this, a needle bearing, and an inner race. And either the inner race, the gear, or the bearing, which I'm going to go with the bearing, has worn, only very slightly, it only takes a very slight amount of wear to cause play, but the needle bearing's worn, which is then causing, let me just put this back, which is then causing a little bit of play in the gear. That one's got none in, that bearing's okay. But in this gear, fourth gear, you can't see it on the video, but there's a tiny little bit of play in fourth. So then when you're loading, this is the input shaft, so it's coming from the engine, power coming through, and then you select the gear with the selector fork, so with your hand you'll go fourth, which goes and locks fourth gear to the input shaft, which then sends drive. These are all spinning freely still when you've got them out of the gear. These are all spinning freely, meshed, to the output shaft gear. When you lock that to the shaft, that means drive is being sent through this fourth gear into, I need 10 hands here, into this fourth gear, which is fixed to the output shaft. So then it sends drive into the differential, and the differential then sends power to the rear of the car, and then back through the centre through this shaft. You can't see it on the video, but through that shaft, that shaft, which then goes through to that one, which then goes through to the front diff. So, I'll just to give you like a bit of a base idea, but you don't really need to know any of that. So, with a failed bearing on the input shaft here, it's going to cause the two gears to not mesh together, properly and evenly. So we can see the corresponding wear. Yeah, I don't know if you pick up on the video, but this is third gear, and the wear is across the tooth evenly. They're meshed together properly. You can just see that little area there. Whereas if you look on fourth gear, the wear is more heavily on the base of the tooth, which means that the gears have not been meshed together properly, because of this failed bearing on fourth gear. It's causing a little bit of lean towards, when the drive's being put through the input shaft. But anyway, in this exact spot here, it's not the same on all the tooth, but that exact spot there, the two metal gears have actually broken through the oil film, and you've got metal on metal scuffing contact there, which is what you can see. And then actually the gear before, I don't know if that'll pick it up on camera, will it? Can you see that little hairline crack? So the gear before's nearly failed as well, and come off. But we've got the bit out of the box. He says we've got the bit out of the box. We did have it there. We've got the failed part. This is the failed item out of the bottom of the sump of the box, and that looks to have even wear on it, to be fair. So obviously this one's taken the main brunt of the force, and then the next tooth's just took the bullet. But the plan, another couple of things which will have been helping. This is a transfer gear bearing. So this goes on the other side of the differential on there, and then it goes to a transfer gear, and then the transfer gear goes to the back wheels. So this determines what speed, the UK boxes have a 1.1 to 1 transfer gear. This has a 1 to 1 transfer gear. So this determines the speed of the prop shaft, the speed of the, what rear diff ratio you have to have. So this has got loads of headache in it. I don't know if you can see that on camera, look. Let me get it. It's got loads of play in it, and it sounds really rough. So that won't have been helping. So this needs replacing. I've checked the clearance behind that shim there, and there's none. There's no clearance, and the tolerance is 0 to 0.15 millimeter maybe. And so it's not a shimming failure, it's a bearing that's failed. So that needs replacing. Same with this one. This is the bearing that goes on top of the output shaft there, casing bearing, and it's, can you hear it? Doesn't sound good, and it's got a bit of headache in it. So that could have been a determining fact, you know, something that's aiding with the failure. But I'll just show you real quick, 2 secs, the transfer, the bit at the back of the box. Yeah, this is the bit where that bearing goes. So this is the back of the gearbox where all your selector mechanisms will go, your reverse lockouts there. Goes like that in the car. Your shifter fork goes through there, and this goes out to your prop shaft, you know, to the back of the car. So inside here we have 2 sets of gears. I don't have the other one to hand, do I? Whereabouts is it? No, it's in the back of the cupboard. No, anyway, you have one gear that goes in there, a gear here like this with a roller bearing on it, and another roller bearing that goes into the oil pump housing on the back of that casing. And this bearing, this sits in there like that. So that's the one that's knacked as well, you know, needs replacing. I just thought I'd show you where it went, you know, so you got an idea. It sits in there. It's got like a little plastic oil feed sort of thing, you know, that feeds oil around. But yeah. So what you really want to know is, what are we going to do? What is the plan moving forward? So I think it's a lot of factors that add together that's caused the failure. So slight wear in the bearings, fatigue, stress on the actual teeth of the gears because of the age of the gear sets, etc, etc. But we've had a failure. Luckily, we've had a failure. This was similar to last year with the turbo. We've had a failure pre-season. So fingers crossed now we're not going to have a failure through the season. Fingers crossed. So what we're going to do is hopefully I've managed to source a used gear, H gear, one of these. That wouldn't be ideal to put a used H gear with another used input shaft gear, because they're not a matching pair, so they've not been bedded in together, so they're not, it's just not ideal. You're going to get high spots and you're going to get heat spots in the gears, and it's not ideal. I mean, I will have to do it if worst case comes to it, you know, use a used gear. But the plan is, I found a company where I can source brand new gears, needle bearings, locking nuts, all the internal components of the gearbox, and it's here in the UK. I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want other people to find him and then buy all the parts, you know, before I've buttoned it, you know, got it sorted. So we've got somewhere, and I'm going to get new 3rd and 4th H gear, so new 3rd and 4th in this one, new 5th and 6th H gear, because that's another weak point that goes, and then I'm going to get not new bearings, the transfer gear bearing, the main shaft bearings, both of them, new lock nuts, 155mm, 138mm, and then I'm going to send off, so we've got, just to go through it, it's heavy, we've got 3rd gear, 4th gear, 5th gear, 6th gear. These are all being replaced for new ones. I'm going to buy all these in new, and new needle bearings to go on the insides of all of the gears that they sit on, them needle bearings what I showed you. So then I'm going to send off all the new gears, and I'm going to have them shot peened and cryogenically frozen if we've got time. The freezing takes longer, so if we've got time I'll send them off for freezing, and then build all the box back up, shim it properly, you know, measure it with a height gauge, shim it properly. I'll show you when we're doing that, and then all being well we should have a box that's as strong as it can be. 1st and 2nd gear, look at the size of them, they're bigger than a blooming GTRs. 1st and 2nd gear, they're massive, so we're not going to have any failures there. Touch wood. But yeah, that's where we're at. So I've got to take this back to my mates and press the gears, the input shaft gears off so that I can have them replaced. The one thing to note as well is if you are sourcing used ones of these, they do vary tooth count, and they also do vary woodruff key size. The later, so like 2008, Subaru started cutting back, cost-wise. So when someone says to you, all 60-speed boxes are the same, they're not. They vary quite a lot. I think people are finding the newer ones stronger, so to speak, because of the age of them. They're not as old. But in terms of actual components to components comparison, the newer ones are not as strong because various reasons. One key, I've not seen one fail on this, but the woodruff key goes from 10mm wide, which sits in here, to 6mm wide. I know that for a fact. So I don't know what reason, cutting costs or what Subaru did, but that's less material, it's weaker. And the other thing is, the newer ones, they don't come with a speedo drive, which is that blue bit there, I don't know if you can see in the video, but so you have to have some sort of wheel speed sensor if you're retrofitting it to an older car. And also they don't have an oil pump. This has got an internal oil pump and you can put an external oil cooler to it. New ones don't have a oil pump, so they're just splash fed. They've got different pipework to be splash fed, but yeah. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent again as usual, so we'll show you what was the other couple of things that I've got to do on the car. I'll flip you over there now and show you before the start of the season, and then I'll show you a couple of bits on Carl's car, what I've been doing. So yeah, the other couple of bits I've got to do is, if you remember in the front bumper, I'll show you in a minute over there, but we've got to put a cowling on the oil cooler here so that it's getting some direct air feed, because it's getting a little bit warm. Well, it's not getting warm, but it's going warmer than I'd like, something like 90 odd. So I'd rather just bring that down a little bit by feeding some ducts into it. So we've got a ducting to make for that. We've got the extensions to do for the time attack, making me extend them down by 100mm. So I've got a nice little trick for that, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to wait for you to see it at the events because it's sneaky and it's quite good, I think. And then the other thing is, Time Attack are saying you need visibility out of the rear windows, even though I've got winged bucket seats and a hands device, so I can't actually see out the back windows. But anyway, they're saying initially this didn't look like a club road car to the general public, so these need to be polycarbonate and not carbon. So I was like, fair enough. I got a dispensation order on it for the whole of last season, but this season they have to be changed. So I've emailed them again saying, look, what do you want me to exactly do? Do you know, with this window, do you want me to cut a hole in it? Do you want me to put a polycarbonate over the top of it? What do you want me to do? So they've told me I need to cut a 25 centimetre by 25 centimetre hole and fit polycarbonate windows on the inside or the outside. So, I mean, to me it's ridiculous, but that's what they're saying. So I've got to butcher up my carbon doors. So I've just measured 70mm in all the way around. I'm going to cut that out. I've ordered a sheet of polycarbonate, 4mm, and I'm going to just bolt polycarbonate with a few countersink bolts around there, and the inside still, you'll still have that effect on the inside, and then them buttons will still be in place, you know, to be able to let me zoom, to be able to lock it to the car, and I'll just cut around the polycarbonate, you know, where they are. So yeah, it's a shame, but that's what I've got to do there. And that's it, I think. Corner weight is miles out. I put it on the other day, 1197 kilos, but the percentages are miles out. Cross weights, they're like 47, 56, I can't remember. It was miles out anyway, so we need to see to that. Then oil change, get some synthetic oil in it, and brake fluid change. And then we're ready to go for the season. and obviously gearbox oil, and then run the new gears in, and then finish mapping. Fucking hell, nightmare. So Carl's car has been in for quite a few bits. Can't actually remember, where did we start? Tubular subframes underneath, gearbox mount, same as mine. The minimalistic one, you know, with the 2 supports on the back instead of the 4. Rear subframe, I'll take you around and show you that. That's neat. I'll put some pictures in the screen of it anyway, but I'll just go under if I can. Yeah, can I? Yeah, it's naughty that. So he's got the hard race control arms that they've been on for ages. So tubular race subframe from Andy, 24mm rear anti-roll bar I've put on with some HD mounts. The gearbox subframe, I'll put a picture in the screen because I can't get underneath to show you that. And then this is the other big bit that I've done. I've made him one of the carbon spoilers, the same as mine. So these are just Easy Composites. I've not made them this time. Easy Composites foam core, 5mm I believe. They're for the end plates. Carbon tube, straight off eBay. Can't remember the name of the company. And then I've just glued some threaded inserts in the inside, and then he's going to change these bolts because they're a bit big and the M10's quite heavy. So yeah, and then rose joints for these supports that go down, I've made them as well. They're just carbon, the same carbon tube with inserts in each end. So I actually snapped, I bought in 4 and I have to put a slight kink in it. So this one's actually off my car. You can see, look, that one's a new one. I've bent that one, that one's okay, but when I started bending, I forgot. You need to put the nut a bit further down when you hammer it, you know, when you're hammering this over. And I didn't, I put the nut right at the top, so it just went ping, fired right across the workshop over there. So I've ordered him another one of those, but he's just got mine on for the pics for the gram. Yeah, for the pictures for yesterday, I just put mine on. Yeah. The only difference with his is someone's actually made carbon brackets here and carbon support things here. I've had to drill all these off and then fit them all myself. Do you know, these are carbon as well, these supports that go on the boot. And then the boot itself's fiberglass. I've just put it on some like quick release fasteners and springs. These were on originally, the little springs here, but yeah, it looks mega. I like it. He used to have, I'm a little bit biased because obviously it's the same one as what's on my car over there, but the same design and everything, but looks pretty epic. That's his old spoiler over there. He had like a WRC one, but he's fond of that as well, so he's going to have them both, you know, as interchangeable. I need to put the hardware back on, actually, thinking about it. I've nicked the hardware off the template for that one, so I need to put that back on for him. That's the spout. Well, I might. My videos are always all over the place, but I've just remembered that's this inlet that I'm going to feed the oil cooler duct in with, and then some of that pipe up there. Some of that pipe. Yeah. So back to the front, what we've done, I've fitted him an accusump. I've replumbed his oil catch can. This is a real early RCM oil catch can that he had on it, but he had it plumbed. Really messy. Not him, he didn't do it personally, but let me just pan out so we can get in. We had loads of different various tees in place going to this PCV oil catch tank. Not PCV, I always call it PCV, but yeah, it is PCV, positive crank ventilation system, or oil breather system. So he had, I can't even remember how he had it plumbed, but I've just simplified it. I've got one rocker cover coming in from the rocker cover breather outlet, the other rocker cover coming into the top above it. It's better, you don't want to see me, you want to see this. One rocker cover, two rocker cover, crank breather. You know, the one in the centre part of the engine, like this piece here. This is actually this one. And then at the back, he had that going on a pipe, going just straight down the car. So this was getting full. Sorry, he had this one going to the crank, and this one going to the crank, and these two going to the rocker cover, and this one was a pipe that just went down the back of the car. So he thought he had an oil leak, or it was dripping oil off the underside of the car. It was basically because the oil catch can was getting full, and then no way of draining it because there's no other drain, because the drain connected back to the crank rather than like a return to sump as you might want to do. So it was just blowing all the oil all over the underneath of the car. So I've re-plumbed it all. We've got just a breather going on there now. This is the part where the baffling's in, so I didn't want to put the breather up on this one, although it looks like it would make sense to do that. But yeah, he just needs to monitor now where his level is, and then I've put a little AN, will it focus on that? No. Little Torx AN 10 or 12, a little removable screw, so you can undo that now and then drain it. So that's going to get mounted. I'm going to do that today. That's going to be mounted. Let's go in there. I'm going to drill that battery tray off and then it's getting mounted in there. I've got the stuff to plumb that up with. Other bits I've done. He did have a sandwich plate. He's still got a sandwich plate for the oil cooler takeoff. It's pretty cool. This bit here. He's got a sandwich plate underneath the engine, and they famously leak, but it had all the sensors underneath the engine with loads of bare wires going under there, all trapped and not very good. So I've just put one of the Fuji oil filter relocation lines, which comes from underneath the alternator there. I've just put him his original oil pressure sender, and then his oil pressure switch for the dash, for the light on the dash. Put that there, and then I've got an oil temp sensor because he's got a new stack oil temp gauge that's going to go in the back there. He's already got one in there for another gauge that's got in the car, but he wants me to take that out. And then the other thing we had, I said I don't want this to be a long video, but there's a lot of information. I think it's beneficial to people that will be watching this. So I can't remember who did it, but on a Subaru, it's very important you have a two-way valve here. Let me take it off and show you. So you have, these Mishimoto tanks are not very good, the quality of them. So you have a two-way valve here, and you have a one-way valve here. So basically, what happens is when the car gets up to pressure, and it exceeds the rated pressure on the cap, so that's 1.3 bar. What it'll do is, it'll open up this spring, and it'll blow coolant down this pipe here, which I'll come to in a minute, and it'll blow it into the overflow tank. And then what happens is, when the car cools down, it'll create a vacuum where the lost fluid is, where air is, and then the vacuum will pull this little flap up and allow coolant to be drawn back in from the overflow tank. So he had this go into a tank here, just bolted where them riv nuts are, bolted to a tank here, and the pipe just went straight to the top of the tank. So you can imagine what's going on. And then he had this capped, he had the wrong cap, he had a two-way cap on here, with this blocked off, just a pipe blocking it off, yeah? So, what happens is, coolant blows out into this tank, fair enough. The tank was too small anyway, so it wouldn't have been able to have the amount of coolant in it, what would be needed when you're on track, it would blow quite a bit out. So you're gonna overflow this tank, and then what happens is when you cool down again, this can't draw the coolant that it's blown back out back in, because he just had the pipe going to the top. The pipe didn't go to the bottom of the container. So it's trying to suck back in coolant, and it's not, it's just sucking back in air. So then, and unfortunately, this has happened to Carl, then you've got an air pocket in your coolant system. So then you get an air pocket in your engine somewhere, in your coolant system, which creates a hot spot, which then blows your head gaskets, which is exactly what happened to Carl. Both his head gaskets blown, so he's had to have a new engine built. But I've fixed this by swapping that caps was right. That's meant to have a two-way on it. This one had a two-way on it, a Cosworth one, a high pressure 1.5 bar one. So I've swapped this for an OEM Subaru one, which is just a one-way. It only allows pressure to be blown out, not to be drawn back in, because it's not the highest point. This is the highest point. So you don't want fluid to be getting drawn back in from here. So, and then I've put back the traditional pipework. So we come, if blows coolant out, it'll come down here, T with this one, which this one can also blow coolant out. Only blow coolant out, remember? And then normally you would go to a tank here, which is what I've got in mine, which ideally you want a clear one, like what I've got in mine, so you can see the level. But Carl's struggling for room because he's got the intercooler pipework that ideally wants moving, and then I'll be able to put it back there for him. But he's ordered an aftermarket one, and we've got it plumbed in the back here, going right down. So the pipe, really importantly as well, goes all the way. Let me take this cap off. The pipe, really importantly, goes all the way to the bottom of the tank. So it'll blow the coolant out when it needs to. I'm not very good at this camera. Blows the coolant out, either the radiator or this one. Comes down that line, into that tank, and then when it's cooled down in the pits, it draws the fluid back into the tank where it needs to be. So honestly, I've seen so many people blowing head gaskets on these. One of my friend's friends in a Hawkeye, brand new fresh head engine. This, we had a little silly expansion tank down here, do you know what you get with the front mount intercooler kits? Blew the coolant out, overflowed the tank. The fluid's not there to replace the missing fluid. Air pocket, head gasket, devastated, 10 grand in the bin. So make sure, number one, you've got a large enough overflow tank. Not so much on the road, but on circuit, make sure you've got a large enough overflow tank. If your pipework will allow it, put a higher pressure cap, two-way cap, on the upper expansion tank, not on the bottom one. The bottom one's already got the one-way valve that it needs. And make sure you don't change the one-way. So one-way on the radiator, no matter what radiator you've got on, and a two-way on the upper expansion tank. And then you'll be good with a Subaru anyway. So yeah, I think that's about everything. What else to do? I tidied up a few wires, you know, put the nice braided wires on rather than bare wires. Changed his dipstick because he's got a twin scroll sump, RCM baffled sump, but he had the classic dipstick, which is longer. So he was driving around thinking he was max on oil when he was really well under minimum on oil level. So make sure when you change into the twin scroll sump, the dipstick tube's the same, but the actual dipstick itself is shorter. So you need the twin scroll shorter dipstick when you fit the twin scroll sump. So yeah, that's that. What else? I've ripped a few bits off. I've ripped his bonnet catch off and all the mechanism that was down here because it's extra weight. That's what I've taken off. That's all his old stuff. That's all weight saving, bro. But yeah, I just want to quickly show you the accusump. Sorry, it's a long video, but this is the inside. He's got a switch on here. There it is, a switch on off. So his is electronic versus my manual one. And then I've just wired, you can see that big AN10 line that comes through from the bulkhead. Goes right round. Let me just move some of this stuff. There's all his fuel system. That needs redoing because it's all on Jubilee clips and stuff, so we need to do that at some point. But yeah, this is his accusump. I didn't install the actual accusump into the car because I would have moved these further over to cover the threads. But this was actually already bolted in the car when it got here. So all I've done is fit this is the electronic solenoid that opens up the valve. You can run these off. I'm not going to go into it because it'll take me, it's a whole other video by itself, but you can run these, what's this doing? You can run them through an oil pressure sensor, oil temperature sensor. No, I was right the first time. Oil pressure sensor on the back to activate the solenoid when it gets below certain pressures, etc, etc. But I've just done it simply on off. So I've just got this earthed to just earthed down here, and then the other one goes to ignition switched live that goes to the other side of the switch. So you just turn it on and off, it just activates the solenoid. And then I've just cable tied it neatly, you know, into the car. So, and then his gauge is on the end there. I think in the future he's going to run that remotely, you know, and have it on the dash somewhere down here. So yeah, that was it really. So the other things I've got to do, I've just made some of these little carbon tabs, and this is going on his windows here, because we've found a solution eventually to let me zoom out. Found a solution to keeping the windows on a Subaru closed. So we put little tabs there, and then I can remove all this heavy stuff. Like this is heavy, look at it, you can see how heavy it is. This can go, these can go, that can go. And then, let me just shut these are just gonna go underneath there like that, riveted onto the outside. Two per window, 2, 4, 6, 8. So I've got them to do, today. And that's it, I think. Yeah, I'll just show you on my car what they look like. I've only got them on the front. So yeah, but they're really strong. You can't pull the window out. So yeah, all good. So I said it wasn't going to be a long video, but it's turned out fairly long. But I'll try one day. I'll get there, and I'll have videos where I don't go off on tangents, where it's like I'm going to cover that today, I'm going to cover that today. But I think everything that I go over is going to help people watching these videos. So although it might be a bit all over the place, but yeah, next video we should have all the bits here for that box to put that together, and we should be building that back together. So that should be pretty specific to gearbox rebuilding if you want to tune in for the next video. But yeah, it's interesting to have another car, a bit of info, a bit of insight, you know, around another car, rather than just me in my car all the time. So yeah, if I'd say if you want us to see any more info on this car or work on this car, write in the comments. But this car's actually going, it's going back, it's picking it up. Because we're finished with it now, so you can go and use it. But I'll put his Instagram in the description if you want to go and have a look on his Instagram, because he has everything on there. So all updates with the car, you know, and loads of pictures and stuff. So yeah, head over there if you want to see that. But yeah, other than that, that's everything. I think that's everything covered. So tune in for the next video, which, as I say, is going to be on building the gearbox back up. Take it easy.